news,
politik, ekonomika,
skikka,
geros,
mazhab,
bunka,
helbred, Casey,
ambient,
sports,
kanker,
traditie, discriminering,
opwarming van de aarde, The global city.
The global city.
the global city,
The global city.
local voices, international perspectives.
Hello and welcome to the Global City. I'm Ditte Lilholm at the Danish School of Media and Journalism in Aarhus, Denmark. And here I am together with my co-host Tariq Pierce from Rutgers University, New Jersey in the United States, and Emily Agard from Ryerson University, Toronto in Canada. Also contributing today will be Robert Clark from Dublin Institute of Technology in Ireland. All of us are journalism or media broadcast students taking a part in something completely new. We are broadcasting online and live, and students from all around the world are collaborating to share their stories and their ideas.
Now, you can watch an international news and current affairs story on any major network around the world, and there are plenty of websites that offer a mix of international stories. The Global City, however, is different in a few ways. We're using a technology that allows us to send our signals through the internet. There's no delay like there is with satellites, and there's a lot less expensive.
That's right, Tariq, and the other big difference is the way we are collaborating. We work together to come up with our story ideas and to plan and produce our shows. But each university is creating their own stories and other content in their own ways. Nope, there's not just one way of doing things for the Global City. The common thread is all of the stories will be interesting to people our age, no matter what city we live in.
That's right, Emily. And a few weeks ago, we actually had a pilot focusing on food. We looked into junk food, gourmet food produced locally, and very odd foods from all around the world. If you want to see that show, go to the website you see below on the screen. Today, we'll be talking about university students' transportation in big cities like Toronto and New York. But first, we're looking into the future of music.
Before the internet, if musicians wanted to become well-known, they needed an agent and a big record label to sign them up. 21st century artists, however, have a lot more ways to market themselves. With social media like Twitter, YouTube, and music blogs, it's a lot easier for independent artists to get their names out there. I did a local profile on a Rutgers band named IOU, whose rise to notoriety has taken them from performing in nursing homes to performing with big-name artists here in the U.S.
Making the perfect choice, executing the plan is all a part of how I'm gonna acquire all my fans. And honestly, I hope you say you'll be one of the two.
Turn it up a little louder so I can rap just a little prouder. I got that scarlet red and Rebecca Black, cause it's the weekend, and tonight is gonna be a scarlet night, cause I got that feeling.
So, a lot of people know us, through our Rutgers songs, Rutgers State of Mind, a cover song of Jay-Z's Empire State of Mind.
Lead from
We released that song, and I guess it just took off. And when Rutgers State of Mind came out, that thing blew up on YouTube. Like tens of thousands of hits, quick in a minute, and that kind of thing is what people need these days to get their music out faster. So once that blew up on the internet, we decided let's keep doing it. Let's keep putting this stuff on the internet. Let's keep putting our videos out. We created another one called Black and Scarlet. And that took off as well, so we were like, okay, yeah, and we thought that was a great way to introduce people to our original music.
My speech is the king. The king is what you getting. See everything in me, and this can't be no different, so that won't ever change. Stone Pony, close your eyes and listen.
What we used to get our stuff out there pretty much was YouTube, everything that was digital, everything that's digital is really helping these artists so far, so we try to use that to our advantage. Definitely social media like Twitter. We made a Facebook page. We're starting to do that, and fans really appreciate talking to them every day. That's where we talk to a lot of our fans on Facebook, and our YouTube page where we put out music videos, a lot of music videos. We release content. When our mixtapes come out, usually we put it out on the Facebook and stuff like that, but we also have people that work with us that know blogs, which a lot of artists put their music out on. And so once blogs start picking up on our mixtapes and found that the music was hot, more blogs start to pick up on it, they'll start branching down. We got on a few really big sites and those like smaller blogs branch out from those big sites. So once you hit those big sites, a lot of sites pick up.
I feel like our main grind is shows. Like we try to give people a great show. Like that's just our goal.
If there's nobody, like if there's one person there,
if only one person comes out, I promise you, you will have the best time of your life. And we just hope that when that one person comes out, they'll go and tell, like, you know, 3 of their friends, and then those 4 people come out, and then they'll tell their friends, and it just networks that way, and, you know, so
it takes time, but we love to do it.
It definitely takes time, but one fan at a time. But I feel like our biggest grind is definitely the shows. And we have done a lot of shows where they make you like sell tickets or whatever, and we try to get a fan one at a time, you know,
and document everything. We try to document everything, whether it's a picture, whether it's writing, whether it's a video. Put that right up on the internet so everybody in the world can see it. So we have been reached out from fans from Australia, Europe, New Zealand. People just hit us up like, yo, we love your music, like in English too, which is cool. So it's awesome, you know.
They been smoking, everything's gone, except us, we stay strong, that's how we live.
All right, guys, I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure I just became an instant IOU fan. I can't wait to check out their Twitter and their YouTube. But before we get into discussion, let's take a look at a Toronto indie band to compare what they're doing with the band IOU that Tariq just told us about. Sarah and Emma Bordelin-Vetter have a band called The Folk. Take a look. Meet Sarah and Emma Bordelin-Vetter of Toronto's local-based rock indie band, The Folk. The Folk have been around since 2009, playing shows in and around Toronto. And, just like any other local band, Sarah, Emma, and the other members have been working hard to get their music recognized among Toronto's local music fans. But playing shows doesn't seem to be their only strategy in getting their music recognized. Social media seems to be a key element in their success as a band so far.
2012, yes, social networking sites are a necessity and essential to be able to create and get your message or your creative content out. It's sort of essential now. I mean, it's not the 70s or the 90s where it's like a letter or something or, you know, TV, like, woohoo, you know? Yeah. It's not nostalgia anymore. It's 2012. So, yeah, I would say Twitter, I would say social media sites are a necessity to be able to interact with your fans and your friends.
Using sites such as Bandcamp, Facebook, and Sonic Bids, the Folk are beginning to establish their online presence in hopes of being recognized from fans all over the world. For them, Twitter seems to be the biggest help so far. Using Twitter, they've not only received attention from local fans here in Toronto, but also from radio shows across Ontario, magazine reviewers in Vancouver, Canada, and now our friends across the border, Chicago.
This magazine, QRO magazine from Chicago, did a little awesome write-up about our newest EP, and it was just really nice of them, too. We're just like, what happened here? But yeah, it was via Twitter. It was just sort of, you know, shouting out to people on Twitter and getting hype and buzz that way.
It's no doubt that social media sites have helped many musicians and artists get their work out there. Take a look at Canadian-born singer Justin Bieber, who found his success on YouTube. Carly Rae Jepsen, also from Canada, had her hit Call Me Maybe go viral online. And just this past year, Walk Off the Earth gained international success with their YouTube cover video, Somebody That I Used to Know. These are all artists that have used social media networking to develop their careers. With the help of social media, the Folk plan on promoting their newest album, Say It Again, through an online means. And they hope to one day experience the success that artists such as Bieber, Jepsen, and Walk Off the Earth have already had.
Yeah, I think that's what everybody wants to do when they play in a rock band, right? I mean, of course you want to, number one, write great music.
Yeah.
But at the same time, yeah, there's that underlying beast that you want to be famous, because the main trigger why you want to start is because you watched an artist when you were younger and you thought, wow, they are superheroes.
So what last-minute advice do Sarah and Emma have for local bands that are looking to gain a fan base online? Interaction and communication seem to be the key.
I think it's really good to be able to interact with your fans, and not only fans, but friends too, and just people who are interested in your music. And the nice thing about Twitter is that it's nice to be able to interact with people, right? To be able to communicate with your fans and your audience on some sort of normal plane instead of, you know, talking to them after a show.
For Global City Music, I'm Emily Agard.
Now we've looked at how bands in Canada and the United States use social networking to get out to the public. And we actually have the same here in Denmark, in a smaller scale perhaps. A good example will be the Danish musician Rasmus Tude. Last week he requested on Facebook some extras for his new music video, and that same video was shot just a few days later with a lot of extras in it. I don't know if you guys know that if that happens around you, Tariq?
Well, I mean, a little bit. You know, it happens when it comes to like music artists trying to get themselves out there. You know, they do try a bunch of different ways, and some actually do find success in that sense, but some don't. You know, a lot of people become the you know, the sort of one-hit wonders now, where they get a bunch of hits on YouTube, or you know, they get a lot of followers on Twitter, but then, you know, they sort of fall off, you know, the Twitter or the social media sphere. What about you guys, Emily?
You know, I think what's so interesting about this is that it doesn't matter what country you're in or who you are. You can just simply throw, you know, a music video or a song, for instance, online, and it has that possibility of becoming an international success. I mean, you don't really know who's watching or who's listening, so that's what I find really interesting. But the question is, does social networking actually work when it comes to gaining fame and fortune, or is it, you know, just creating today's version of 15 minutes of fame? Noah Schwartz is an MA student here at Ryerson University in Toronto, and his area of expertise is DIY music. Yes, that stands for do-it-yourself music, which is part of what he likes to call the new music economy. Noah, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I think first off the bat, what we really want to know is, what is DIY music? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it pretty much means forgoing the traditional label route that some of the previous people were talking about, and really going yourself, promoting yourself, making your own music, doing the social media thing, but also just really kind of treating your band as a business and trying to make that business successful.
Okay, now is this method only like good for a younger demographic? Can it be used for, you know, a genre such as jazz or classical music?
Well, I would say that jazz musicians have actually been doing this for years because no one really wants to listen to them anyways. So they had to go out, get their own gigs. They probably made the most money from touring. And that's how most DIY artists make their money, just like the Rutgers band was talking about.
Okay, now Tariq, I know that you have a question. I'm going to throw it over to you.
Yeah, so Noah, I had a question for you. You know, like sort of like, you know how, thank you for joining us for
Thanks for
first.
having me.
Now, Bieber, for example, Justin Bieber, you know, he got thousands of fans, and, you know, his stuff got shared. So sort of what's the difference between, you know, Bieber and, you know, these people who put their music out there, they get shared, but then they get forgotten about?
Bieber started out DIY, and then he got signed to a major label. And when he got signed to a major label, him or his mom, his stage mom, stopped being his business manager, and they gave those duties over to, you know, professional people. And that's what changed Bieber's business dynamic.
I have another follow-up question for that. So with do-it-yourself music, is the idea to eventually get signed, or is it,
Yes.
you know, to sort of have you ever heard any instances where people actually continue to, you know, do their do-it-yourself music? Because a lot of people actually you know, use music as sort of like an artistry where they don't really look for, you know, pay or things like that. What do you think about that?
I think the goal is to get signed or to make a deal with some sort of corporation. It could be a sponsorship, it could be a licensing kind of deal on a TV show, but you have to kind of build enough leverage to make that deal, to make that business arrangement so it's favorable to you, because otherwise the major labels or other types of music business entities really try to exploit artists.
Okay.
Heard instances of that. So Dida, you have a question for Noah, right?
Yeah, I do. Hi, Noah,
Hey,
first
Dida.
of all, and thank you for joining us. I was just wondering, could you say that there is some kind of a formula to using social media to make it in the music world?
Yes, make great music.
It's just as simple as that.
Yeah.
Make great music.
Social media is not going to help you if you don't have good music. You know, that's it. Maybe you'll have a gimmick and get some hits, but like Tariq was saying, then you'll be a one-hit wonder. But if you make good music and put that out, then social media can help.
All right, Noah, I actually have a clip that I'd like you to listen to. It's Chris Howe. He's an indie musician in Toronto, and he has a theory about how musicians should behave online. Take a look.
Great.
The one thing that you got to remember as a musician is that you are a brand, but you got to be a very personal brand as a musician. A lot of times I find that bands take too much time in trying to sound like very professional, like something. We'll be playing this show tonight at this time with this amount of money. It's got to be like, hey, we're playing this show tonight. Come out, guys. I would love to see you and love to meet you. That's the kind of stuff that I like to update. It has to be very personal. It has to be real. It has to be a human behind the computer. And that's what you got to realize, because the machines are only an object to kind of like communicate through. You got to make sure that you're still your voice. Don't change it. Don't let the computer kind of become your voice. Continue to only use that as the extension of your voice.
All right, now, so I want to know your thoughts on that. Is there such thing as being too personal? Can that ever be a negative thing?
That's an interesting question. I don't think so. No? I don't think so. You really want to create a personal connection with your fans and have them feel like they're invested. What I would say about that video is, instead of thinking about your band as a brand, think about it as a business, and then branding and marketing is one aspect of that business. But what's most important is what you're offering to the public, which is your music.
All right. Now I actually have another clip for you. Another thing we found from talking to musicians is that they can never afford having agents and a big PR machine behind them. And that social networking just seems to be simpler. Now this is Alessandra Canedo, and she has a little something to say about that. She's also another Toronto musician. Okay.
So I like to keep people up to date by using social media. And also it's a way to just display my work, and it's good because you don't have to send out packages and demos and EPKs to everybody anymore. You just send them a link, and it's really quick and it's easy, and yeah, that's why.
Now, Noah, is social media is it enough to get your music out there?
No.
No?
Not at all.
Not at all.
You need to play live. You need to create music. You need to constantly be updating. You need to be networking in a more traditional human sense.
So is it safe to say that EPKs and CDs and just tangible items, they're not disappearing?
They may disappear,
they may.
But social media and online services serve the same role as those physical items. And physical items weren't enough to make you in the music industry. You need to make the good music and have the good connections.
Play the shows.
Play the shows,
right?
Exactly.
All right, Tariq and Dida, do you have any questions? Tariq?
No, actually, thanks a lot, Noah. You're really good. So coming up in a few minutes, though, we'll talk about how the other people affected by social media and networking and music. We're actually going to talk about the artists themselves and sort of how it hurts the consumers as well.
Yes, we're, for instance, going to talk about how ticket prices for concerts are rising due to the fact that artists now have to get their pay otherwise when people download their music for free.
All right, now, but before we continue, I just want to say thank you so much to Noah for joining us here in studio for Global City. Definitely learned a lot about how the future of music is going and where technology is going, so thank you very much.
It was a pleasure to be here.
For joining us.
So you guys, you're watching the Global City on the Global Campus Network. I'm Tariq Pierce. I'm here at Rutgers University in New Jersey. I'm joined by my co-host Dida Leland in Denmark, and the Danish School of Media and Journalism, and Emily Agard over in Ryerson University in Toronto.
Yeah, and we've been talking about how the internet is a good way for musicians to promote themselves, but it is also a really easy way for music lovers to go and find whatever they want, but mostly for free. File sharing is constantly under fire from stronger and stronger regulations, but consumers and pirates as well are finding their way around that. In Sweden, for instance, a group turned to religion, and they might just have found the way around.
Once upon a time, there were two pirates,
Gustav
and Isaac. Together, they sailed the virtual seas, taking bits and bytes wherever they pleased. They thought it was harmless, 'twas all in good fun, but some took offense and forced them to run. The pirates, they said, were an unsavory breed, and the pirates, they vowed, to copy and cede. What they were doing was illegal, they knew, but the two found a way to see their vow through.
Missionary Church of Copymism, we believe in copying, and that's copying is central and holy in your life, and that the human life is evolving from copying. The cells in your body is copying from the DNA.
I think that its beliefs are important, and I think recognition for them
is important.
The two Swedish pirates came up with a plan. They created a church to bypass the ban. The laws for religions are different, you see, and might help the two friends avoid penalty.
The priest have to be silenced, and he cannot witness in a court case.
Thrice times they tried, and at last were accepted. A file-sharing church. Who would have expected?
I spoke to a lawyer, and then she told me that we should copy the words straight from the law book into the application, so it could not be dismissed. So we did that copy, and it was kind of fun that we had to copy.
You know, in some ways, it's a very, it could be a very smart move because now it's recognized.
But you may wonder how this church came about. The process is simple and plainly laid out. Religious groups have requirements 3: a board, a purpose, and a community. There must be a board to keep things on track, a panel of members to vouch for the pack. They also must have a purpose to meet, without which a faith is just incomplete. And lastly, of course, this religion must be a collection of people, a community. Kammarkollegiet decides, in the land of the Swedes, if a prospective church meets all of these needs.
In the best case, it's a smart move to gain protection within the Swedish society.
If you see the file sharing as an act of religious confession to a priest, and the computer is your priest, you should not be able to have evidence of what to do.
No blessings or prayer among their devout, though ceremony this church does not do without. Their rituals are the same as their creed. Control-C, Control-V, just copy and seed.
Rituals are connected to actually possibly life-transforming activities that are considered special and which actually they have a special effect psychologically.
And they're changing more than mantras. The church is applying for the right to perform marriages. But adherents can forget about a traditional ceremony. There will be no walking down the aisle. In fact, brides and grooms won't need to be in the same location. The church will develop a computer program that will allow its followers to wed online by clicking a box with yes or a box with no. Marriages in this church will be as legally binding as any other.
A lot of people have come to us and says, if we want to get married, can we do it? So we felt like, all right, we have to start to apply for it. And of course, we have done some copying as well. So we have copied some parts from the Swedish church and some part from the Jewish traditions and the Muslim and the Hinduism to make it like a remix. And then you have the copyism.
To marry is not why this religion began. The pirates just wanted to fight the big man. The virtual market is at a standstill for who owns the product and who pays the bill. But artists create to share from their heart, so it sounds pretty fair to pay for their part. And producers help artists with mass distribution. They too would like pay for their contribution.
The main topic, of course, on copyright today is illegal distribution online. And there's a variety of different attempts to limit the illegal distribution. There are things that are illegal that some religions think should be allowed, but law still applies. It sort of testifies to the attitude of the hacker, really. You see a system and you try to find ways to use it other than its original intention.
The church is right now in its baby stages. No building, no book, no membership wages. Time will soon tell if it comes up short, or if free religion holds up in court. It is agreed, this won't be solved in a day, but the Swedish government could have the last say.
And what is really amazing about this story is that there are actually no court cases scheduled to try the loophole yet. And the religion has had its first legal wedding by now. So for now it seems that it's actually working. And Emily, have you ever heard of anything like this before?
I can honestly say that I've never heard of anything like this before. I'm actually really shocked to see this piece. It's really interesting though. It's interesting to see just the extent that people are going to share and copy music. And you know, it is a smart idea, it's a good idea, but is it necessarily a good thing for the musician? I mean, we should be able to support the musician in some way, but at the same time, it's like that's where the future of music is going. It's going to downloading and streaming. So Tariq, what do you have to say about this? I'm interested in hearing what you have to say.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I thought it was a very clever idea. It would definitely not fly here in America. But you know, it seems very interesting that they would try to, you know, go through religion to sort of overtake the law. I mean, again, we were just talking about how, you know, social media and, you know, internet and things like that is sort of changing the scope of the music industry in general. And this could be something that could affect, you know, even, you know, movie distribution and things like that. So, you know, the whole copy paste thing, it kind of takes away from the artists themselves and, you know, the producers and everyone who puts their hard work into it. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know. It doesn't seem like too much of a good thing to me.
I agree.
Emily.
I agree. Now, this discussion here actually relates to our next studio guest. It's really hard to keep up with the constantly changing technology. I mean, all the new websites and music sharing sites, all the new ways of uploading this and downloading that and changing all the policies and rules and laws around the world. But at 17, our next guest has a pretty good handle on it, I would say at least. Winston Tsai loves technology and loves music. He spends much of his time researching, reviewing, learning, and understanding the modern world of music. He's been featured on many Toronto-based news shows, and he's a social media editor and contributing writer for a technology blog. Winston, thank you so much for being here today, here on Global City.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I gotta know, out of all the file sharing sites for music, what would you say is the biggest one for consumers right now?
Well, there are so many out there. There are sites like Amazon and, of course, the iTunes that we all know of. So really, iTunes, of course, remains to be a big one. And I think a lot of people are using websites like iTunes to track some of the global music trends. And, of course, there's the more local end as well. So there are many social networks that are popping up to, I think, talk about that and to display some of the more local talent out there.
Now, you know, I have a question about radio. There's a lot of people don't really listen to radio that much anymore. And with so many ways of being able to easily access music and download music, what is going to happen to the future of radio? Where do you think that's going?
Well, you know, the reality is radio's never going to end. You know, television's never going to end, but you're going to see a transformation of maybe distribution. So you're going to see where the media is going to go. So, of course, there are applications out there, mobile applications, and you're going to see that many radio stations are going to take their content, and they're already doing that. They're taking their content online. So, Toronto-based media, of course, all around the world are coming up with apps, and to create more of an interactive aspect as well. So I think applications are really the future with radio as well as television.
All right. Well, Tariq, I'm going to throw it over to you. I know you have a question for Winston as well.
Well, yeah, just following up on the radio aspect of things. You know, we have satellite radio, we have internet radio. I mean, like, you know, it's sort of taken away from the traditional radio stations with the hosts and, you know, with the radio shows that they had traditionally that, you know, they have a lot of talking in between. So what do you think is the future of that aspect of radio as far when it relates to music?
Well, really, in my opinion, Tariq, I think that online radio is you're going to see right now. There are two very different things. You're seeing radio stations, traditional radio stations, where you have callers calling in, and then you're seeing online radio stations. And I think throughout time, you're going to see that there's going to be a merge in between, and you're going to see that they're going to be including more of an interactive aspect, and they're eventually going to merge into one. So really, again, I'm not anticipating that the traditional radio is just going to go away all of a sudden, but I think you will see more interaction between the two.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, because some of the internet radios, radio apps that we use here are some, you know, the Pandora radio that's really popular, the Spotify, and so you just sort of type in the artist that you want. You don't have to listen to anyone talk. You can just listen to the music that you want to listen to. And so that's what I mean, as far as those aspects of it. Like, do you feel like that's where radio is going, or will we have sort of like, you know, how we have the NPR here in the U.S., where we have straight talk radio, or, you know, the BBC over in the UK. Do you think that's where it's going to, or do you think those are going to eventually merge, or is it going to be, you know, music on one side, you know, news and other information on the other side, or what do you think?
Well, I think you're right. There are two different, right now, there are two different ways of consuming music and radio. The traditional radio, you're getting what they're giving you. You're listening to the commercials. You're listening to the music they choose. And I think you're going to see a trend with mobile applications where they're giving you, the consumer, more choice in what you're listening to. So be it picking a genre of music or selecting a certain playlist. I think there's a service here in Canada, and I believe in the US called RDO. That's a really big trend right now.
Yeah.
And you are seeing RDO, you can pick playlists where there are set songs that you will listen to, but then at the same time you can pick a la carte music. So you can pick, you know, the top 40 music, and you can select which songs you want to listen to and create your own playlist. So it really caters to the different types of listeners out there in terms of what they prefer. But, you know, in my opinion, I think mobile applications are going to evidently give consumers the power that they want.
Okay.
All right, Dida, did you have a question for Winston?
Just one short question, yes, because hi Winston, first of all. A bit earlier you were talking about the media is going more interactive, and I was just wondering, how would you see that the radio actually went interactive? How can they include and cater to their listeners' needs?
Right, I think a big part of what radio stations want in terms of social media right now, they want that interaction. I think they're really taking the power of social media. So going back to the applications, you're going to see radio stations make use of applications to maintain communication with their viewers. So you know, there are some radio stations here in Toronto, and radio stations all around the world are doing it. They're using applications to maintain contact with their favorite DJs, to enter contests, and to even take things offline and have things like tweet-ups, where you're meeting with personalities and you're going out to community events. So really, it's giving you that flexibility there again.
Okay, now, do you see this trend moving from audio to video?
Yes, completely.
Completely?
It's a
so like
huge
movies, for instance, and...
Movies.
Yeah.
Movies are coming out with apps. You know, America's Got Talent, Canada's Got Talent. All those shows out there are coming out with apps so that you can interact with maybe judges, you can interact with the audience viewers, and it gives that real sense of camaraderie in the viewership.
Okay, now I actually have a clip that I'd like to show you. Earlier we heard what some American and Canadian musicians have to say about how social media has affected their music careers, but now let's talk to some fans to see if websites like Facebook and YouTube are actually among those sites that people here in Toronto are using to discover new music. So we asked you, Toronto, how do you find your music online?
I use GrooveShark, so I go on there and there's like a search option that you can do, or you can see what's popular right now.
I find music online by my friends suggesting music to me on Facebook and Twitter.
Streaming, torrent sites, or usually YouTube as well.
Pirating, torrents.
Usually I'll just go onto YouTube and kind of type in something.
Usually it'll be on Facebook or something. Like I'll see someone posting a band, and then I'll click on that band, and it'll lead to another and lead to another.
Mostly 8-tracks, to be honest, and GrooveShark.
Pirate Bay is pretty much how I find everything, and I use torrents.
YouTube and SoundCloud.
I usually check the iTunes top 10 lists of what songs have been bought the most in Canada, and then I kind of base my decision off of that.
Yeah, with YouTube and Facebook, especially, and Twitter.
Usually I just listen to my music on YouTube. Sometimes MySpace is still around, you know. Sometimes I find songs on there.
YouTube, like that's probably the biggest way I actually listen and find music, legally of course. Instead of downloading, it's just much easier to just listen to it on YouTube. That's probably the best way.
All right, Winston, thank you so much for joining us here on Global City. Definitely got some insight onto where technology is really going in the future. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, guys, you're watching The Global City, hosted by me, Tariq Pierce, at Rutgers University in New Jersey in the USA. My co-hosts are Emily Agard at Ryerson University in Toronto, Canada, and Dida Lilholm, at the Danish School of Media and Journalism in Aarhus, Denmark. Coming up in the show, can daylight savings time make you sick?
Also, we'll find out how many countries can fit inside one city and just how easy or complicated it is to get around on public transit in Toronto and New York.
But for now, it is time for Emily and I to sign out. Tariq will host the rest of the show with 2 new co-hosts. So in the end here, I'd just like to ask you, Emily, how did you like hosting the Global City?
This was a really, really cool experience. You know, I learned so much from both of our studio guests, Noah and Winston, and from you guys. It's just so cool to see how, even though we're in different parts of the world, we're still connected through different aspects like music. So I really enjoyed it. I would love to do it again, anytime.
Absolutely. It was definitely a pleasure hosting with both of you guys. We're going to end the music section of Global City today by checking out one way of marketing music that is as old as music.
Rob, could you take a look at this for me?
Of course, Diane, of course. It's Jaws. Actually, wait, let me have a look. It's actually Back to the Future 3. It's Back to the Future 3.
Thank you.
Oh, hello there. We're just here in DIT again, where we always are, and we've got a little busking clip for you once more. It's Robert Jordan and his song Autumn Bed. I hope you enjoy. And while you're watching that, I got to go back to some media-related work.
I suppose it's just an outlet like to show people my creativity or whatever, the stuff I'm working on, get a bit of feedback as well from the public, because it's very hard to tell if maybe you have a song worth keeping or not, and the public kind of, they show interest, you know, keep going with that song. If not, maybe put it back in the box, if you know what I mean. It's fun for me as well. I just love doing it. So
it goes. Now be cautious, cautious, darling.
I thought I'd get a bit of money out of it, and I love doing it, so it's going to be easy money, but it's a lot of hard work, you know.
Honey, for my heart to hit the floor. Something's been telling me that we're going in too fast. Something's been telling me this will never ever last.
Do you see any merit to these people who, I suppose they're not really buskers, who just sort of stand on the street? Do you see any merit to them, human statues?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's creative and it's their art as well, so like they work hard on that, and if they can earn a bit of money off it, that's great as well, but they're showing off their creativity as well, so that's good, I suppose. I mean, I'm just a different type of creativity.
Cautious, cautious, watching, waiting. Cautious, cautious, watching, waiting. Cautious.
Generally, I don't know, you get some ideas off other buskers. I mean, some of them do pretty outrageous things, some of them do pretty cool things, and they give you ideas, but as far as influences, I don't think they'd influence me much, you know. It's just competition, really.
So you wouldn't look up to Glenn Hansard or anything?
Oh, wait, no, well, I would, but for different reasons. I mean, I wouldn't look up to him for busking, I'd look up to him for his songwriting skills.
Yes! Yes!
News.
Politique.
Ekonomika.
Skikka.
Keros.
Mazhab.
Bunka.
Helpbred.
Casey. Ambient. Sports.
Kanker.
Discriminering.
The global city.
The global city.
The global city.
The global city.
Local voices, international perspectives.
Hi, you're watching The Global City. I'm Tariq Pierce here at Rutgers University in New Jersey in the United States of America. I'm joined by two new co-hosts for the second half of the show. Bilal Vakani is at Ryerson University in Toronto, and Christian Jensen is at the Danish School of Media and Journalism in Aarhus, Denmark. Welcome, guys.
It's good to be aboard. This show is produced by students and instructors at all of our university and broadcasted using a technology called HeyVision that let us send our signals out over the internet. That means the three of us can see and hear each other without any delay and without having to use an expensive satellite.
The Global City is the first show in the Global Campus Network. In the next year, our three universities and others around the world will be collaborating to produce more global city shows and other types of shows. For example, the National Ballet School in Toronto is working with us here at Ryerson, along with Harvard University and an Amsterdam-based choreographer and dancer, to produce a ballet performance with dancers in several locations.
Bilal, I know that Ryerson is right in the middle of downtown Toronto, which is a city of 3 million.
Absolutely.
And Tarek, Rutgers has a few campuses, but yours is in New Brunswick, which has about 55,000 people, but it's very close to New York City. Aarhus, where I'm from, is the second largest city in Denmark with a population of about 350,000 people. And when I go to school, I usually, during the summertime, take my bike. And in the wintertime, I take my bus. And it takes about 20 minutes. So I was wondering, Bilal, how do you get to school?
Okay, you guys are going to hate me. There's a Union Station that's just central in the downtown, and it's about walking distance, and I still take the subway. And it only takes me about 10 minutes to get here. So I'm probably the most hated person on campus for that fact alone. So it's fairly easy. And you know, I could walk, I don't walk. There's an underground path, I don't even use that. I just take the subway. I'm a terrible person. Tariq, what's your commute like?
My commute is pretty easy because the Rutgers University campus is so big here in New Brunswick. We're actually spread out over 2 towns, so we're in New Brunswick and Piscataway. And we're sort of in the middle of New Brunswick, so we have a bus system that is on campus, which you guys will see later on in the show, that takes us around campus. We have a bunch of different buses that we can take. We have an online bus system that we can check the next bus coming and things like that. So it never usually takes me long to get to class because I live on campus as well. And we also have a highway that goes through our university as well. So that makes it pretty easy to get around as well.
Now, Toronto just gained the dubious distinction of having the worst commuting time of 19 cities around the world that were surveyed, including New York and Barcelona. On average, it takes a Torontonian 80 minutes to get to and from work. We don't have a train or subway that goes from downtown to the airport, and for such a sprawling city, we only have 3 subway lines. But even then, it can be a confusing system to navigate. Our reporter, Irina Shumak, asked an exchange student from the UK to make a seemingly simple journey on the Toronto Transit Commission, or TTC.
My challenge today is to get to Exhibition Place by using the TTC. I've got a timing device with me to see how long it's going to take me to get there.
Alex had made his way to downtown's Dundas subway station, only a few minutes from Ryerson University.
So I think that means that there's a streetcar that goes along King. So if I can get to King using the yellow line, then I can get a streetcar along and then walk to Exhibition Place.
After making sense of the somewhat confusing system map, Alex felt fairly certain he knew where he was going. Now it was time to buy tokens to get on the train. 5 tokens equals 5 trips, which costs $13 in Toronto.
I need to get a transfer so then I can take the streetcar across.
Alex was lucky enough to catch one of Toronto's newest trains that have only been in circulation for the past few months.
This is my station next, I think, so I need to get off here and then see if I can take the streetcar. I might be a bit lost. I'll have to go out and try and find my way around.
Lucky for Alex, there are streetcar stops outside every subway station, so he hopped on the first one he saw.
And the driver's just told me that I'll need to get another transfer from Bathurst Street, so this journey's getting a little more complex.
Next stop, Joe Schuster Way.
The nice gentleman on the streetcar told me to come off a few stops later because then it's just a couple of minutes walk to Exhibition Place.
Finding your way around Toronto's downtown streets with no map isn't exactly easy. It took Alex quite a bit of time to figure out where he was going, but he eventually completed the challenge and arrived to the Exhibition Place.
It took slightly longer than I thought, with 51 minutes on the clock. I don't suppose it would normally take this long, but it was hard because I didn't know where I was going. I had no instruction, I had no maps. I just had to hope that I was going in the right direction.
It took Alex over 50 minutes to get to the Exhibition Place. He probably could have walked there in that amount of time. We did force him to use the TTC without any maps or help. There are specialized transit applications for smartphones or even the old Google Maps to easily navigate the system, until, of course, you get underground and have no cellular service. Now, I want to talk to you guys about this quite a bit. Tariq, I know you're in New Jersey. You guys must have even more applications than we do because you guys have a bigger population, correct?
Yeah, bigger population. We have a lot of different forms of transportation. And so, you know, you say the old Google Maps there, but actually it's one of the most advanced forms of you know, directions and things like that now because they've upgraded it so much. You know, you get the street view, you get, you actually, for us, we actually get subway times and, you know, if I put, say, point A, New Brunswick, point B, Toronto, it'll give me a bunch of different ways to get there, whether or not I want to drive, whether I want to walk, whether I want to take a bus, take a train. And so I think that's been one of the most helpful ones for me in general, but there are also other ones. We have GPS systems, the TomToms and the Garmins and things like that. What about you, Christian? What do you have over there?
Well, just to put things into perspective, Denmark is extremely small and it is extremely easy to get around. So we don't have the same commute problems as you do in the States or in Canada. We do have buses, we do have metro in Copenhagen, and we do have trains as well. So yes, Denmark is very easy to get around in.
For Americans, especially in the northeast region of the States, there are many modes of transportation, as I said before, that we use to get around. And it can look really, really hard to navigate all the different bus and train and subway routes and highways, but our reporter Yasmin Fahmy and her crew are here to show us exactly how easy it is to get from here at Rutgers University to our closest metropolitan neighbor, New York City.
We'll be traveling to New York by bus, train, and subway. Joining me on this trip are my assistants, Mariah and Connor, who will be helping me document the journey. First up, the bus.
The Rutgers bus system is used by Rutgers students to get around the different campuses. Now, it's the second largest bus system in New Jersey, and it runs year-round, including weekends and holidays. Best of all, these buses run on biodiesel, which means they have close to zero nitrogen oxide emissions. Pretty cool.
After a quick ride on the bus, we walked a few blocks to the train station nearby. Let's just say it took a while.
We don't have to know where we're going. As long as we get there.
It was tricky, but sure enough, we found it, and we headed to the platform to buy our tickets. A round trip to New York is $26 for adults, but students still use the train to get to the city.
How often do you guys use the train?
Like twice a month, I'd say.
If I'm going once a year, I go.
He goes more than once a year.
Oh, I go to school in Connecticut, so I have to go up and down.
Okay, you're not from Rutgers. No.
Even on a Saturday, it was nearly impossible to find a seat.
NJ Transit is New Jersey's public transportation corporation. It's the third largest in the United States, and it services over 223 million passenger trips every year. The agency operates a fleet of over 2,000 buses, over 700 trains, and 45 light rail vehicles. Now that's impressive.
There's my talent, Yaz. A little bit on the incompetent side, but that's okay.
After the 60-minute ride to Penn Station, we headed over to the subway, conveniently placed only a few steps away.
Which one do I get? This one? Is that going to take us in and back?
It's all the same price.
I'm going to get a single ride. ATM card meet debit. Yeah. ATM card.
Yeah.
The New York City subway is one of the oldest and most extensive public transportation systems in the world. With over 460 stations, it averages over 5 million rides on weekdays.
Alright, sorry.
The famous yellow taxicab is seen all over the city. It is the primary mode of transportation for New Yorkers. The act of getting a cab is called hailing, and it's pretty easy. Just pretend you're back in middle school and stick your hand out. It's just that simple.
Well, now that we're at Times Square, let's go get something to eat.
Hey, what up, baby?
Well, this has certainly been worth it. You guys got a chance to look at the Rutgers bus system, the NJ Transit system, and the New York City subway.
And so I'm pretty familiar with the with the whole New York City traveling system. So what about you guys? What was your experiences, you know, in different modes of transportation, or even if you've been to New York City at all?
Definitely, Tariq. I was lucky enough to go over to Secaucus, New Jersey a few summers ago, and it's so much easier than Toronto. Like, you take a bus, you go to Times Square. You take a train, you go to the bus authority or the train station near Times Square. It's so much easier. Like, over here, you know, just to go to my grandparents, which is like 7-10 minutes in a drive, it takes me 2 subway transfers in half an hour. And it's just such a better system. No, you know, I don't want to rag on Toronto, but it's just a really great system. It's complicated. You have to be organized. You have to have map printouts. And, you know, I had internet, so I was printing off like 7-page maps of how to get around. But as long as you have those, you're pretty much good to go.
Yeah. What about you, Christian?
Well, I'll have to say I'm a bike user. I like to use public transport when it's cold outside, but in the summer I prefer to use my bike, definitely.
Well, talking about different transportation systems, and you just commented on you know, sort of Toronto's transit system there, Bilal.
Yep.
You know, so what are some of the complaints that we hear?
Definitely. Torontonians love to complain about our public transit. I think it's a pastime with no context of other systems across the world. So I asked Professor James Mars, who teaches urban planning here at Ryerson, and he knows exactly where we stack up internationally.
It's quite laughable, really, in comparison to the best systems in Europe, because they have national support. It all comes down to national support. They're not being built by states of the German Republic alone. It's being built through national funding, Spanish national funding, Olympic deadlines in Britain to improve transit, and the funding is national. So they have national funding, and they're in a completely different ballpark.
So one thing Professor Mars brought up was that European countries benefit from national funding for public transportation. Christian, is that indeed the case in Denmark?
Well, it definitely is in Denmark, definitely. There's a lot of public funding towards public transportation in Denmark. We do have the metro system, we have lots of buses. So yes, definitely, there is a lot of money going into that business, definitely.
Tariq, you know, I know national funding is not a popular topic in the States, but could you see some benefit to nationally funding the transit system over there?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, right now we're going through sort of this gas prices crunch right now. So a lot of people are using public transportation, and it's becoming more crowded. You know, a lot of people are resorting to it. Not a lot of people are biking. It's a little bit different here than it is in Denmark. But I think a nationally funded public transportation system would definitely make it that much better, because, you know, you'd be able to, you know, depend on different forms of transportation, being, you know, different subways and in more places than just New York City. Because, you know, one of the things that I noticed was when I was interning at CNN was that most New York City residents do not have driver's license. They don't need to drive, and it's different for us in New Jersey. So, yeah, I think I would definitely like that European aspect of public transportation, national funding, yeah.
In almost all roads in Denmark, there are designated bike lanes, which encourage, obviously, people to use the bike instead of using the car or the train or the metro or whatever. So, I mean, having designated that bike lines definitely helps.
Yeah, and I know in Ottawa we have divided bike lines. Here in Toronto, they're sort of drawn in, and it's a very dangerous situation where we've had a lot of fatalities, so there's something needs to change. It's very dangerous. Now, students at Ryerson love to complain about our long commute times, lining up for late buses and trains, or sitting in gridlock on the highway. When it comes to congestion, Professor James Mars from Ryerson in Toronto says there's bad news. We can tinker with it and nick away at it, but we can never let it go away.
It is inescapable. If you don't have congestion, your economy has just gone into the toilet, okay? Because if you have a strong economy and a growing population, which most metropolitan areas in the whole world do, you're going to have congestion. Can't avoid it. You can tinker with it. You can have high occupancy vehicle lanes. You can put fares on. You can do aerial charging, as they do in London and a few other places. All of those things help raise money for transit and divert people from their cars a little bit.
You're watching The Global City, where students from Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey, Ryerson University in Toronto, Canada, and the Danish School of Media and Journalism in Aarhus, Denmark. Christian, we may be different in many ways, but all three of our countries have just done exactly the same thing.
70 countries worldwide, the clocks are turned 1 hour forward every spring to provide the population with long, bright summer nights. In Denmark, this tradition has been decided by law for almost 100 years. But in recent years, people have started to question the value of daylight savings. People like physics professor Jørgen Bak.
I never adjusted my watches to show daylight saving time. Some years ago, when my children were small and should start to learn the clock, I switched actually the hands 1 hour forward, but then I continued to add 1 hour. So I came 1 hour too late for 3 meetings. That was the only time in these 30-odd years that I have switched the hands, and I should never try that again.
I've always just lived with that fact that summertime is a weird fact in the rest of the world, while at home we were normal.
Many countries in South America and Africa, as well as Russia and Australia, have already decided to discontinue their use of daylight savings. Jørgen is hoping that Denmark and the rest of Europe will also abandon the proposal suggested by Benjamin Franklin in the 1700s. Jørgen founded the Association of People Against Daylight Savings in 2002 with the view to encouraging the Danish Parliament to take action and campaign in the European Parliament for daylight savings to be abolished.
Since we made the association, well, before that I thought I was just awkward or special, and I was alone in the world with this point of view. Well, then we had an association. We were 2 people, and since that it has grown, and now we are 5,000, so we're going in the right direction. There are a growing number of groups on Facebook which is against daylight saving in Sweden, Spain, Belgium, and so on, and Germany, of course, and France. And we are trying to track down these groups and contact them, and so we can get this united European effort, because that's what's needed. We can't do that as Danes alone.
Jørgen's arguments against daylight savings range from mild inconveniences like the sundial rendered useless to the change in usual working hours since daylight savings was first introduced.
Nowadays, it's much more fluctuating when people go to work. You could still have these long hours that you already have, so it's not so important any longer. Work is not related to the time of day in the way it was during the industrial era, and we are living in a new era now.
The most serious argument Jørgen presents against daylight savings is relating to health issues as a result of switching the clocks forward.
All the health issues which haven't been analyzed, and in fact it costs around 25 Danes the life each year. If you have a weak heart, what you do here in the spring is you produce an extra hour of stress, and that might be just the bit which tips the load, and, well, your heart stops working.
Research carried out by the New England Journal of Medicine over a period of 19 years shows an increase in the number of fatal heart attacks in the week after daylight savings takes place in the spring. The red markings on the graph showed the increase in fatal heart attacks in the days following daylight savings in the spring in comparison to a normal week. Jørgen says the health issues relating to daylight savings are what he intends to highlight to the Danish Parliament. He has the support of his family in his campaign to have it abandoned.
I think it's hard to be as much into the cause as my father is. I'm as passionate about changing daylight saving time. I don't think it has any valid cause, so why not just change it?
2 or 3 years from now, there is the next election for the European Parliament, and I would say, wouldn't it be nice to have that as an issue of the European Parliament at that time? And I think that'll be a good point, also realistic schedule for abandonment of daylight saving in Europe.
30 countries worldwide have abandoned the concept of daylight savings over the last 50 years. But for now, Danes and Europeans alike still have to set back those clocks hands come spring. Bilal, I'm going to ask you, do you have this discussion in Canada at all?
You know, I haven't had the discussion, but I found out Saskatchewan and parts of Quebec actually don't observe daylight savings, much to my surprise, though I don't have any plans to go to Saskatchewan anytime soon. But there was a study done by the University of British Columbia that the night before daylight savings, Canadians lose about 40 minutes of sleep. And then there was also kind of the point was made that if you lose 40 minutes of sleep, you are sleep deprived. And if you're sleep deprived, your blood pressure goes up. And if your blood pressure goes up, your chance of a heart attack is much higher. Now, luckily for me, my dad's a cardiologist, so I asked him, I'm like, is it possible? And he said, yes, it's very possible that if you're on the borderline for a heart attack or some sort of condition with blood pressure, that this could very much tip you over the edge. So in seeing this story, I think you guys make a great point. I think we need to not worry so much about the sun and more about our health. And I think it would be a good idea to abolish daylight savings.
What about in the States, Tariq? Is there a discussion going on there?
I haven't really heard a really big discussion, but you know, this is something maybe that we should discuss. You know, we do get the benefits of, well, I see benefits in having daylight savings time. You know, you know, going from class, you know, during the winter time, where it's really, really dark, really early, you know, to the summertime, or to the springtime rather, when you know you get that extra hour of daylight. But if there's health concerns with these, then I think we should open up the conversation here. Guys, you're watching the Global City on the Global Campus Network. Thousands of American students travel abroad every semester, and some go to study, some go to learn about a new culture, and some go to teach these students, abroad about American customs and to speak the English language. Sarah and Shona, one of our producers here at RUTV, spoke with two students at Rutgers about their out-of-America experiences.
I always knew that I wanted to study abroad, and also I'm an Italian major, so it was important for me.
I studied abroad in Japan to, I guess, further develop my Japanese language communication skills, and I thought that it would be a great experience for me to get out of America and just see what other cultures had to offer.
I picked Florence because just out of the two options, Rome and Florence, they had a year program in Florence that I could study at the university with Italian students.
While I was in Japan, there was a lot of things that made me like, I'm so not in America anymore. For instance, there was a time where me and my friends went to this club, and because we showed our, I guess, American ID, they let us in free of charge while all the other Japanese natives were like waiting in line. So there was definitely privilege to be associating with like, I guess, international student, and it was an amazing experience for me. And I was like, yes, because they don't treat me like this in America, so I was special in Japan.
What I liked best about being away was that I just loved to live on my own. It's a lot different than living in a dorm at Rutgers. I used to go home every weekend and work. And when I was in Italy, I was really by myself. I learned how to live on my own, I learned how to cook, and I met so many different people from different cultures.
The one thing I could say I missed about being away was that I just missed my family. That's the one thing I didn't really like about being in Japan. But during, like, I guess, the holidays, I just felt a little, like, you know, sad. But after that, I would be like, oh, whatever.
I funded my trip by working really, really hard. I knew that I wanted to study abroad in Italy for probably since freshman year, so I started working ever since then, and I worked all summer. I would go home on the weekends to work. Also, I got a few scholarships and grants.
While I was in Japan, I did a lot of traveling. I went to Tokyo, I went to Hiroshima, I went to South Korea, Seoul. Like, I just had a great time. I mean, I was in Asia, therefore I wanted to see as many Asian countries as possible. So I would just say I traveled and I tried to do things out of the norm.
I went to 10 different countries while I studied abroad. My favorites probably included Spain, and I went to Oktoberfest in Germany.
In Japan, I had a part-time job. I worked at an elementary school, and I was assistant English language teacher. And I really found that very fulfilling, actually. A lot of the kids really looked up to me, and like they just asked me a lot of questions and poured themselves out to me, and I really embraced that. And I think that that was one thing that I would do again if I went back to Japan.
I actually got a part-time job at a marketing agency, and I was a receptionist there. Also, I would sing at a local pub every once in a while, and I would make some pocket money. And on a Thursday night like this one, I would probably be doing karaoke at the local pub. Penso che è molto importante che studenti americani studiano fuori e non vedo l'ora di ritornare a Firenze, mi è piaciuto molto e mi sono innamorato della città. Grazie.
Now I love this piece, you know, because I can absolutely relate to it. You know, traveling abroad is a different experience. You know, you have the really, really good things about it, then you have the completely confusing, I'm really not in Kansas anymore moments. For example, I actually went to Puerto Rico a few years ago, and, you know, touching on another topic that we had, you know, transportation. Their transportation system is way behind down there in Puerto Rico. So their roads actually are almost the size of one-way roads, but they're two-way, you know, two-way roads, and there's a lot of twists and turns and mountains and things like that. So you really have to drive carefully, you know, with your high beams on to make sure nobody's around that turn, you know. And then there's also the language barrier there and things like that. So you know, what about you, Bilal? What kind of experiences have you had?
All right. Well, I'm going to be the downer of the group. So I went to Saudi Arabia, and I have an aunt who's from there. And when she comes here, she's like my other aunts. She's annoying, and she's always doing everything. But when we go to Saudi Arabia, she's not allowed to drive. She's not allowed to be out without a man, and women's rights are so different there that it's a whole different power dynamic, and I'm very uncomfortable with that. I didn't grow up with that, so it just doesn't seem right. Like, my aunt loves to boss me around, and by law I have to kind of listen to her. But you know, it's a very odd dynamic, and I'm not comfortable with that.
Right. What about you, Christian? Any I'm not in Denmark anymore experiences?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I was doing a semester in Canada actually last year, and I was so happy to be there during Halloween season. And by sheer coincidence, I was invited to this party at the Peruvian ambassador's place. And I figured, well, Halloween, it's a big deal in North America, so the first thing I did was obviously to go out and get the biggest costume I could find. So I found this big inflatable tourist costume, and I put it on. And I went to the penthouse apartment where the party was held, and I knocked the door, and I walked in, and it wasn't a Halloween party.
Oh, no.
So I was the only one dressed up.
Tell me
it was a good
you have
experience
a picture
anyway.
of that. Tell me you have a picture of that somewhere.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's on
We need
Facebook.
to see that after the show. That's very important.
I'd love to see it as well. You know, we all have those experiences, you know. So tell us a little bit more about some of the Danish customs that we may not be used to.
Well, we talked earlier on the Global City about how much time it can take to travel to and from our campuses. But some students, in fact, travel to other sides of the world to study. In fact, all the programs you see here that we are showing are made by international students. In many countries, athletics and education go hand in hand. But in Denmark, one school is taking the combination a step further. In line with the Danish model of folk high schools. This school in Aarhus has its main focus on handball and a few other lessons.
I have a passion for handball. I had enough of school in England. I passed my basic education, and I wasn't doing so well. I wasn't focused so much in school, and I began really liking handball, and my coach suggested, hey, maybe you should come out to Denmark.
New Zealand native Aston Lang came from his second home in England to attend Indre Højskolen in Aarhus. It is one of 73 folk high schools in Denmark. These schools don't replace normal high schools, but offer students of all ages a chance to specialize in a variety of subjects.
It is a school, but you're not really tested, you don't have finals, you don't have exams. So it's a place where students can come and relax, but not lose touch of education and have a bit of fun.
More than 160 years old, this Scandinavian tradition was inspired by the philosopher Grundtvig, who saw it as a way to educate the masses.
A folk high school is what you call a free form of school, with very few rules. If you're a normal citizen and you like to educate yourself, not in a special subject, but educate yourself, and the main subject is yourself. It's your personality, your integrity, your way of being a citizen in a society or an environment.
Aston's education is coming through handball, and he's learning alongside almost 20 other international students. But just because it's not a formal education doesn't mean it's not hard work.
You have to be up at 7 o'clock for breakfast, otherwise you don't eat. You have to be at lessons, otherwise you're going to have a few knocks on your door if you're just sleeping. You are learning some sort of life skills here.
Whether in the classroom or on the court, those life skills are the focus of a folk high school. These schools not only help students improve their talents, but they also teach them the art of being human.
It don't necessarily have to be on a high level in handball and football and things like that, and a career like that. It could also be a career like a good, positive human being.
Part of their education is how students live their daily lives at the school. They eat, sleep, and study on campus, which also includes helping with daily tasks.
Yeah, I'm a big talent in football. Yeah. Super. But when we are out of the football pitch, we also need you 6 o'clock in the kitchen to help the kitchen, because we need to have some food.
To some students' cultures, it may be odd to have to help out in the kitchen, but catering to 11 different countries doesn't come without difficulty.
To meet culture with different cultures, that's naturally a conflict about basic things. What kind of food, how to sleep, to be competitive, is so important for us, because that conflict, it develops people.
Despite those conflicts, most folk high schools now accept international students.
Folk high school is also a part of the global village, because actually one way or another, through Facebook, etc., we are very much connected to one another.
Høgskolen operates under these ideals of a holistic education, but for Aston, he is simply focused on his dream.
My ultimate goal would to be playing in a very high league, not necessarily making a lot of money, but having a job that can fit around handball. I'm not so much looking to be a superstar, but I would like to have a name for myself.
Now you're watching The Global City. We're live at Ryerson University in Canada, Rutgers University in the United States, and the Danish School of Media and Journalism in Denmark. We've mentioned throughout the show that we're using technology that lets us send high-definition video signals through the internet. The Dublin Institute of Technology in Ireland doesn't have the Hey Vision box yet, but they were really enthusiastic about participating, so we invited them. Now that we've talked about handball in Denmark, that really leads nicely into this next story that Rob Clark from DIT in Dublin will introduce.
Oh, hello there. You just caught me editing one of the many films we edit here at the DIT School of Media on software such as Mozilla Firefox and Internet Explorer. The next segment you're going to see is a little clip we threw together on hurling, a traditional sport played by our ancestors. It was developed as a means for the Vikings to pass the time lightheartedly in between the bouts of rape and pillage. It's a wonderful game. Enjoy.
This is a hurl.
Jesus.
This is a schlitter. These are tight shorts. 3 key elements in playing hurling.
Hey, my trousers gone.
Once you have all 3, you can get onto that pitch, boy. Now first, you need to learn how to pick up the ball. No, not with your hand. You can't just do that, that's too easy. You need to roll and lift it. Scoop the hurl under the ball and flick it up. Nearly had it there. It's behind you. Ah, good job. Now, you have to learn how to hit the ball. Ah, careful now. Bullseye. Jolly good, son.
Yes.
Now, we'll move on to tackling. Oh, you can't shove your opponent. Alright. You have to wait the right time and get the ball off him. No. Come here. You can't hit him like that. You get sent off. Just flick the ball away from him. Now go for a point. Fantastic. Now if you're really dandy, you can go for a goal Hit the ball past the keeper, into the net. Oh, it's a goal! 3 points on the scoreboard. Sure, you're flying now. You're ready to go and play like a champ. And remember, it's all fun and games, but winning is everything.
I don't think I've ever seen hurling in Toronto, but we definitely have handball, lacrosse, soccer, and hockey, and just about every other sport from anywhere you can imagine in the world. That's because Toronto is known as one of the largest multicultural cities across the world. Over 150 languages are represented in the city. There are neighborhoods in Toronto that look and sound just like Portugal and India and Korea and Vietnam. We sent our reporter, Irina Shumak, to one of the oldest neighborhoods in the city, Little Italy.
From the little authentic cafes and gelato shops to an Italian Walk of Fame, you could mistake this neighborhood for an Italian city. But we've actually traveled across the world right in our own backyard to Little Italy in the heart of Toronto. And who better to show us around than President of Canada's multicultural Chin Radio TV International, Lenny Lombardi.
This neighborhood has become very, very eclectic, and it kind of reflects the community that lives here now. And so you'll see sushi bars next to the famous Cafe Diplomatico, you know, where you can get the finest coffee in the city of Toronto. One of the oldest video music stores in Toronto. MVP Video sells Italian music here at their shop, along with probably the widest and most extensive collection of Italian films.
Little Italy stretches about 1.2 kilometers along College Street, close to Toronto's downtown core. This community has a rich history that began in the 1950s when hundreds of thousands of Italian immigrants settled in this area. Now, over 60 years later, Little Italy is a vibrant and booming community that attracts people to come have a taste of Italian culture without needing to hop on a plane.
Just taking a stroll around this neighborhood is about the next best thing of taking a walk down Via Veneto in Rome.
Lenny Lombardi and his late father Johnny Lombardi, founder of Chin, have been helping multiculturalism develop and expand by broadcasting in over 30 languages to more than 30 cultural communities in the greater metropolitan Toronto. And there are many ways we celebrate our cultural differences and similarities, including the annual summer Chin Picnic. Lombardi is also the executive producer of the world-famous 3-day festival that attracts over 250,000 people annually.
Over a 3-day period, we'll play host to over 20 different cultures at the Chin Picnic. And this is celebrated by everyone together. So it's much different than just an Italian event or a South Asian event or a Chinese event. This is an event that is for everybody, and it's very reflective of the city itself. When we look around the world and we see the difficulties in other countries, such as France and England and Denmark, and places that are struggling now with multiculturalism, I think the countries all around the world are looking to Canada, and in particular Toronto, to see just in fact how is it that we do this great thing called multiculturalism. And I think we set the stage through our media and through a sense of acceptance to make this a home for everyone.
We've shown you Little Italy, but if you're traveling to Toronto this summer, make sure to check out Chin's 3-day picnic starting June 30th, where you can get a taste of all our cultural communities in one place. From Little Italy, I'm Irina Chumak.
The Global City. 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 Local voices, international perspectives.
This is the first time students have collaborated online to share our ideas and stories with each other to a global audience. And personally, this is my last show as a student. So this has been a great experience for me as a producer, and I'd like to thank everyone on our crew. If you guys wanted to join me on camera, just so we could say hi to the world for a bit before we sign off here. And to let everyone know that this is a group dynamic. It's not just me. There's a lot of different people. Everybody just get in there,
squeeze in
say
there.
hello to everyone. Everybody squeeze in there. Let's get Alan in there. Hey. And so it's a big team effort, and we just like to say thanks for allowing us to be a part of it as well.
I had space issues, but they're gone. We're going to produce, well, first of all, I need to take a special thanks to our director, Sheila, and our associate director, Anne. They made this go so smoothly and helped us coordinate across 3 different countries. We're going to produce another Global City show once we're all back at school. I know some of these guys are graduating, so that's a relief. No, I'm just kidding. And we're hoping to add new partners from all over the world. So if you're a student or an instructor watching this and want to find out how to take part, please contact our executive producer. His email is just right here, and you can see it on the screen. And I want to say this has been a lot of fun. It's a very unique show. I've never been to Denmark, and it's moving up on my list of places to travel. And even going to
anytime.
Oh, that's great. If you want to pay, especially, then it'll be done tomorrow. But and even going to New Jersey, you know, it was great to learn more about it. As a tourist, you can only take in so much. And Tariq really gave me a good sense of what the culture is like, and that was really special. So I want to thank you guys so much, and to everybody watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. That's it.
Goodbye from the global city, guys. See you later.
Bye.